Hey, this is Corey from Woodcraft. And even though the parks are closed, everything is shut down and we're stuck in the house, doesn't mean that we cannot get ready for camping. The season is approaching, things are going to open up again, and we need to make sure that we're ready so that when the parks and the outdoors does become available to us again, that we can go and enjoy it right away. And I do this every year. Every year I prep my gear, I make sure to air everything out, take it out of storage, make sure that everything is aired out, ready to go. And so in today's video, I just want to share some of the things that I do to make sure that my first time out isn't just a disaster waiting to happen. And so the very first thing I always do is I always pull out my sleeping bags because they're usually musty and gross and compressed into whatever bag I put them in. So I like to get them out, make sure that they got their loft in them, make sure that they don't stink, make sure that there's not a loose sock or something from last year stuck in it. Caroline did a post a couple years ago, maybe last year, and when she was getting her gear ready and one of her socks was stuck in the sleeping bag. So make sure that you air them out, get that loft back in them, make sure you get that nasty smell out of them because you don't want to be sleeping and have to smell whatever grossness is inside of them. So even putting them outside to air out, put them on the balcony so that they can get some fresh air, re-loft, and get the life back into them. The other thing I do is I inflate my sleeping pads, my pillows, to make sure that they still hold air, make sure that there's nothing wrong with them. Give them a good squeeze test to make sure I don't hear anything. And yeah, so that's something that I do every year. There's been a couple times a long time ago where I was still sleeping on air mattresses. I would get to camp and I would go to inflate my air mattress and it wouldn't inflate because the seams on those air mattresses aren't very good. And so the seam would have a big missing spot. It would have gotten hot or something and it separates so it doesn't fill and I end up sleeping on the ground. And so just inflate everything, make sure that it holds air, make sure you can lay on it and you don't hear any air escaping from your inflatable items. The other thing that has burnt me a lot of times is make sure you check your bug spray, your sunblock, all your consumables, your fuel. I don't know how many times I have thought I had a full canister of fuel, but I've only had like a little tiny bit, or I thought I had bug spray and then I go to grab it because it's time to go and there's just a little tiny bit at the bottom, like I can barely pump it out because there's just so little on the bottom. So make sure that you're checking all your consumables, make sure that you have as much as you think you have, because like I said, there's been a lot of times where I thought I had a full canister and it turns out I had an almost empty canister. A sunblock, same thing, I thought I had a bottle of sunblock but it was almost empty, and then you end up having to run to the store and pick up who knows what, and it doesn't work as well as the stuff that you prefer. And so just make sure that you're checking this stuff now and ordering what you need to order, get what you need to get, so that when the time comes you have what you need and you know that it is actually full and you don't just think that it's full. The other thing that I like to do is I like to go over my stoves. I want to make sure that the igniter still works. I want to make sure that because what sometimes happens is as you're cooking, something will spill on here and you think you clean it off, you think you did a good job, but then as it sits all winter, it crusts up inside of here. And so just testing it, making sure that it works properly, making sure that it turns off properly. All these things that can really, I can smell it. So even just there, I can smell there was dust on it and it burnt the dust off. So yeah, I can smell it burning the dust off of the burner here. And so make sure you're testing these things. Make sure that the igniter works, that it's not clogged full of whatever's in there. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with your stove, and knowing about it before you're in the middle of the woods relying on it is very important. The other thing is batteries. Make sure all your batteries are charged. A lot of us have flashlights that take certain kind of batteries. Even if you just have one of those big D-cell batteries, There's a lot of people that don't stockpile D-cell batteries, and then the battery in your flashlight dies, and then you don't have replacement batteries. So make sure that you're getting replacement batteries for your flashlight. Make sure if they're rechargeable, you're recharging them, and so that the flashlights or headlamps or whatever you're choosing to use is ready to go. Again, I've been burnt a lot of times where I got batteries for my flashlight, I head out, and it needs an 18650 instead of double A's, or it needs double A's and I brought an 18650. And so even though I had batteries, even though I thought ahead, I didn't grab the right kind of batteries. So make sure that you have what you need. Don't just think you know, make sure that you double check so that you actually know. The other thing is clothes. I have clothes that I wear for camping. They get dirty, they get gross, they smell like smoke. And so I like to keep my good clothes good and my camp clothes separate. So make sure that these still fit. Again, make sure you air them out. They've probably been sitting all winter. So even your swimsuit, a lot of people haven't seen their swimsuit since last summer. So make sure you air it out, make sure it still fits. If you have to get a new one, make sure you get a new one now so that you're not stuck without later. The other thing is your tools. I have my knife here. I have to sharpen this still. I didn't sharpen it when I got home on my last trip because I knew I wasn't going to be using it for a long time. And so all of your tools, make sure that you're sharpening them, maintaining them, make sure there's no rust or pitting or anything wrong with them. Make sure that everything is up to par so that when that first day comes, when you are going out for that first weekend, all your gear is ready to go. You're not scrambling trying to find things. You're not scrambling trying to do this or do that, or the batteries in here are dead. Do I have a different flashlight that I can use? It's all taken care of right now so that when the day comes and you are actually going to enjoy the time in the woods, you can enjoy the time in the woods and it's not so much of a struggle. So with that being said, make sure to leave any knowledge or questions in that comment section. How do you prepare for camping season? What is the one thing that you have gotten burned on before that you know better now? Leave that in the comment section and I cannot wait to see you on my next video.